Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitafi. Today we are going to talk about President's first speech to the joint session of Parliament. As you know, it is also a very important formality because the parliamentary year starts with the President's speech. But apart from that, the president also talked about a lot of very important issues in his speech, and we are going to talk about them as well. For example, he talked about the need to eliminate corruption, he talked about transparency, institution building in the country, and he talked about building harmony in the country as well. Apart from that, speaking on foreign policy, the president also touched upon Pakistan's bilateral relations with China, with Afghanistan, with Turkey, with America, and a whole host of other nations. Having said that, he also highlighted the plight of Kashmiris and also reiterated Pakistan's moral and principled support to the people of Kashmir. So today we are going to talk about these matters. Today, another very important development happened. The government presented its version of budget. So we will try to talk about that as well, although people are calling it mini budget. But let me remind you that the current government has recently been elected, and usually it is the task of a newly elected government to present the bill. The previous government, when it presented a bill for the entire year, an year in which it was not supposed to even be present in power, or it could be, but when they did, we kept on questioning that government in this program as well. So in order to help us understand these matters, we are joined by Dr. Humayun Mohmand, leader of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Zamir Haider, senior journalist, senior analyst, anchor, and whatnot, a regular in this show as well. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Dr. Saab, I have to start with you. What did stand out in the speech?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, if you really see the newly elected president, Dr. Arif Alvi, he was quite comprehensive. He touched almost every aspect that is related with the Federation of Pakistan. He talked about the importance of building the dams. He talked about the even the human resources, the investment on the human resources, and especially he said, if rather than sending people abroad who are not technically sound, right, and if we just teach them something more like small little things, they could be much more better resources for Pakistan and represent Pakistan much better, right? He talked about instead of irrigating the land just like that, we can bring in what we call as drop irrigation so that we can conserve water. He talked about the foreign policy, how we need to build up those things. He talked about the almost also about the health issues, about the stunting, which is one of the biggest problems in Pakistan.
And I recall the Prime Minister, when he got elected, his first speech especially, was important that he actually showed the picture of stunted growth as well.
Exactly.
That is important, Dr. Saab. But my question, thank you very much for helping build my introduction. But do tell me which one was one thing that stood out for you?
You see,
the most important thing you thought that was said.
You see, the most important thing from my point of view is that the president was actually, he represented himself as a person who is speaking for Pakistan as a federation rather speaking for a political party.
Okay.
Right? That was his, that is how he presented himself, that he is actually representing a federation, not a political party.
So
I think that was very important because in the past...
Mamnoon Hussain didn't do that?
I think he was a bit
Asif Ali Zardari?
No, certainly not.
Okay.
Not in my opinion.
Let me remind you...
I mean, you can differ with my opinion.
Yeah, but of course, this is my job to differ with people. And I'm going to talk about that as well. But let me bring in our second guest, Zamir Saab. Zamir Saab, your take on the speech.
Well, Patafi, overall, I would say that it was a very comprehensive speech, and he didn't take time like the previous presidents who actually spoke for good more than the time he has taken, and they were not that comprehensive, and they missed out on many
Are
things.
you saying is very articulate?
So I think that he was very articulate, and as far as that the duration and the comprehensive and covering almost all the aspects wherever Pakistan is standing today. And but to my concern, I've been listening to this rhetoric, and I heard that he had made a lot of emphasis on the accountability process, strengthening of the institutions, especially those which are actually involved in the
accountability of people
thing. But my concern would be that we have been listening to this rhetoric since PTI was in opposition.
Okay.
And this started, all this started, you know, long, and they say that this is 22-year struggle of Imran Khan. And then we saw the culmination of his struggle when he was at this your next door, you know, he was at the 126 days of sit-in, and he was there.
Sitting next to PTI, of course.
Yes, and we you know, saw that what his vision was, what he wanted, and he said that one by one, all the culprits, all those who were involved in corruption would be.
I get that. But why do you have this impression that it is a rhetoric? The present government has been in power only for 3 weeks.
You know,
the president even less so.
No, but the thing is that I was expecting. Probably it was my expectations were higher than you were saying.
That Imran Khan would come with a magic wand.
No, not magic wand, but at least Patafi, I was you know, looking for something concrete. Other day I was hearing the Chairman Nab's you know, statement when he went to this Islamabad Chamber of Commerce, and he was saying that we have seen people who were on motorcycle in 80s, late 80s, and now they have got towers in Dubai, and we need to ask them, we need to investigate that from where they got all this money. My point is that we have been listening to this rhetoric, as the Chief Justice has rightly pointed out, that instead of, like, you know, bringing the names in front, you should come concrete and heavy on these people. I thought that during this period we would have something concrete, and there would be you know, people behind bars. They would have done their homework well. They would have come out with more you know, providing, you know, the president said that we need to strengthen those institutions. I think that in the first 10-15 days they should have come out with a plan, or at least something which would have substantiated this.
You are not ready to allow the government 3 months, whereas you have allowed other political parties 3 terms.
I'm ready to give them 3 years. I'm not confining myself.
Why would you jump the gun right now?
No. My point is that the direction starts coming in the first, you know.
Let me ask Dr. Mohmand, sir, why we don't see that kind of direction, or do we see that direction?
You see, let's put, okay. What happens is that if I come into power, the first thing is that I need to analyze what is the ground reality, right? Once you know the ground reality, and that is what is happening presently, is that you are actually trying to understand what actually happened, because according to what Asad Umar said today, there were a lot of things which were either omitted, right, or they were not shown properly. They were not represented properly into the accounts and everything, right? Now, so once you understand...
Don't we have the RTI law to actually right to information, through which you can actually get all the information?
Yes, the law is there, but when you are in the government, you actually know all the details of it, right? So once you know the details, you start making a strategy.
Right.
And once you make a strategy, then you start pointing how to maneuver all these problems, or which direction should we take, right?
Okay.
Now, it's just like, you see, you are going with an inertia.
The government must have done that.
Yes,
I understand.
No, the government is
But
presently...
help me understanding your vision of accountability restructuring. How do you plan to actually institute accountability that it is transparent? Because NAB is considered to be quite politicized, or was politicized in the past. And there are people who say that NAB doesn't have that kind of biting power or punch.
When you give a responsibility to an institution,
Okay.
right, you need to give them a responsibility, and then you need to ask them, which is accountability, powers, and after that, right. Now, the most important thing.
Accountability of the accountability.
Yes, you see, when you are delegating powers to someone, then you have to make them accountable for what they have done.
Okay.
Right? Now, when we talk about institutions, I take it the civil military bureaucracy is like the engine of this country.
Okay.
The political leadership are just like drivers. They can steer this wheel which side they want to, but the engine should be in a working sort of thing, and they should not be meddled by these politicians.
Okay.
So first of all, you have to bring
These
all
politicians means you also.
these
Your
politicians
party
means
as well.
we also.
Okay.
Anyone, any politicians. Unless you take these institutions away from the politicians, and if I as a
So
bureaucrat
how do you
would know,
actually create that? Because Dr. Sahab, at this moment
You have
we
to
have
pass- you have
we-
to pass
hang on, sir.
certain- you have-
Allow me to
yes.
just make the question. Submit the question. You have FIA, you have anti-corruption, you have NAB, you have accountability courts, and then you have the judicial system as well. What can you do to improve the quality of accountability, and how do you restructure that there is not any kind of repetition?
well, you see, that is where you have to streamline it. In governance, there are 3 E's:
Okay.
effectiveness, efficiency, and economical.
Right.
Whatever you do should not be costly. Whatever you do should be effective. Whatever you do should be efficiently done, right?
Are you going to replace NAB with another institution?
No.
Are you going to write a new law?
Well, the thing is that you do have to find out a way where you streamline all these investigative institutions, maybe under one sort of thing, or maybe bring
A
them
new law.
a new law or a new something
Right.
like act or something like that, right? But this country actually needs civil services sort of reforms. This needs judicial reforms. I think the judicial reforms is the most important one.
Right.
Right?
And your government has actually committed. to
Have
both the
already
things.
started.
They have committed, they have formed the task forces, but at this moment they haven't actually come up with a law. So the moment they do, we are going to say they have started. At this moment they are
Well, so
researching.
before you pass the law, there is so many other
Right.
things you have to start with.
Your take, Zamir.
But Tafi, Dr. Saab has said that, as you have mentioned that Asad Umar said that when actually he has gone through the files, then he came to know that things are much worse than what we thought, and these are the belt tightening measures we have to take, and this is the whole rhetoric which he has actually been contradicting and denying, and coming out with a real opposition during the PMLN time.
Yeah.
And now he says, it reminds me of Dr. Ishfaq Hassan, is a renowned economist.
Was here in this program a few days ago.
Yes, and interestingly, when he was not on the other side, when I say other side, it means when he was not in the government.
When was he not on the other side?
No, he was, when he was only heading the PIDE.
Okay.
And whenever the figures of inflation or a sensitive price indicator or the trade figures would come, and he would come out and he would talk with us and he would say that it's totally fudged figures, the number of inflation is much bigger than what the government is saying. And when he was actually sitting on the other side, and he said and I asked him, Dr. Saab, you used to tell us that these figures are, so how should we, why do you think that we should take you serious that when you're giving these numbers? He said when you are sitting on this side of the thing, then you see actually what is inside the basket.
Okay.
So, but my point is that.
But the government is saying that things are far worse.
Far worse. I agree. My point is that they missed on many things. They didn't take the parliamentary committees seriously. If they would have religiously, taking those parliamentary committees seriously, if they would have been part of those committees, they would have easily taken on the
They
things.
didn't have the PAC.
They didn't have the PAC, but they were now. Since you have mentioned PAC, when this
PAC
debate is
has
going
done
on,
remarkable
when
work.
this debate is going on, that is the forum where you can actually bring accountability in real sense, and of the past governments, like wherever they have done wrong. But my point is here now they are in a dialogue that since Pakistan People's Party and PMLN had this arrangement, I wouldn't say that it was a policy decision under Charter of Democracy, that the leader of the opposition should be the chairman of Public Accounts Committee.
Who is the leader of opposition at this moment?
Shahbaz
Have
Sharif.
they fixed him? His
Probably
name?
yes. This is what they are claiming, that because the PML says that they have,
We haven't seen any development on
no,
that count.
but my point is, I'm not saying that whoever the leader of the opposition would be is supposed to be under that kind of arrangement, which was actually agreed under Charter of Democracy. I don't agree to that, because Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has never been into power. Only KP government for 5
You are
years.
saying that
So
Public
all
Accounts
the-
Committee's chairs should also belong to PTI.
Yes.
They should be auditing their own government.
Yes, because all the para audits which would be coming in front of them would be for last 10 years or more, which have been pending,
Okay.
or last 7 years, 8 years. So how do you expect that the chairman of Public Accounts Committee sitting there from the opposition would be actually accountable to its own things which they have done? They would not, and people argue that the chairman
But here's
is
the thing.
hardly one
Hang on,
seat.
with due respect, chairman of PAC might belong to any party, but PAC, Public Accounts Committee, has a representation
Yes,
of
this is
all
what
the
I was
parties.
coming. This is
so
what I was
they will
coming
be
to
able
it.
to do their job.
No, but my point is that chairman of the committee has got all the powers. He can, if he feels that this thing is going, against him, if he is from the opposition party or he or she is from the opposition party, and the audit paras are there of their tenure, and they see that they cannot get away with that, then they will be in big trouble. The chairman can always,
with
the
due
chairman
respect, they
can
cannot
always constitute a subcommittee, delegating certain number of members and making a chairman of that subcommittee and sending that para audit to
Okay,
that
we
committee.
have to move on. You have made a point. I have to talk about another thing.
Just let me conclude. My point is that when I say that the rhetoric, if they would have been sitting seriously, taking the standing committees of the parliament during the last 5 years, they would have done much better during this small period
Right.
which you said.
Let us move on, Dr. Saab. Let us talk about another very important thing that the president spoke about, and that was youth bulge. What do you plan to do with the youth bulge?
Well, you see, that is one of the things.
60% of the country,
60% of the
said,
country said is
is
youth.
young.
Young, yes. And young means which is less than 40,
Okay.
right? So,
Actually, around 25, 30, yeah, lesser than 25 or 25. I
No,
guess.
I think
very close to it.
They categorize it as a potential working force which has got energy in it.
Yeah, but
That
when you
can
say
stretch
youth
it
bulge-
a little more
No,
till 30.
you include the minors as well. But
no,
with due
yes,
respect.
yeah. So you can actually.
well, anyway, the thing is that, you see, the important thing is that a lot of these young people, most of them, if not most, a significant portion of them are out of job,
Okay,
right?
Right.
So one needs to find a job
okay.
for them. Number two,
How do you plan to do that?
right. You see, the job starts when there is some sort of
Economic activity?
economic activity. So
Your
you have to
government
make-
actually pledged that it is going to create, 10 million jobs.
Yes, yes. In 5 years, not in 100
Yeah,
days.
but
not
they
in
said
100
in
days.
100 days
Not
they
100
will
days.
set up
Yes,
this system.
No, in 100 days they will give you
A
the
roadmap.
way, a road map. That means
direction.
the direction, right, and how it will be done, right.
Today,
So-
did you see that direction today in today's budget?
Well, I think this was not a budget. I won't call it a budget.
Okay,
I
finance
wouldn't call
bill.
it budget. It
Finance
was
bill.
it was
Money
just
bill.
probably readjustment of small little portions.
It was amendment in the money bill.
In
You can say.
some sort of thing. Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
Call it whatever you want
Yeah,
to. It is being perceived as the
That's a
the
different
budget.
thing. You see, that perceptions sometimes might not be true. Okay. Anyway,
There must be some perception that must be true, right?
Fair
so
enough.
let us talk about that
let's
perception.
talk. Okay, fine. So the other thing is that you have to make sure that you give them the right education. That is technical skills.
Okay.
If some of them gets the technical skills, then these trained people, for example, you can have paramedical, and being a doctor, you can have paramedics and nurses and all those things, and there is a huge demand outside Pakistan. So you can give them these technical skills and you can export them as a technical skilled people to the other world, where they would not only represent Pakistan in a better way, but also be able to send some remittance back home.
A young man, Dr. Saab, who has studied, a 24-year-old who has mastered in English literature, are you going to train him in nursing and send him abroad?
Well, you see, the thing is that sometimes there are a lot of people who have done their masters and then changed their professions. So sometimes you have to counsel it, because most of the education in Pakistan is not properly counseled, not properly given the proper direction, right? So we need to come up with certain things. But
When do you plan to do that?
well, I think it's not going to happen. In my opinion, it's not going to happen next 2, 3, 4 years. It's going to be slowly and gradually. In my opinion, I think most of them.
Your
in my
government's
opinion,
entire term in office is 5 years.
I know. But you don't.
You cannot stretch it,
You think that the
stretch it
60%,
beyond it.
60% of them, all of them would get a job in next 5 years?
Yeah, but at least some direction.
Some direction, yes, some direction,
So
and
are
that
you going
direction
to-
will give certain amount of jobs anyway. Right? Once we achieve our targets that we have pledged, that we have promised, that means we are already on our way. And inshallah ta'ala, in our next consecutive term, we will be able to achieve a lot more than that.
So you're planning for the next 5 years as well.
We are planning for the next 15 years.
Okay. And you're confident you're going to win?
Inshallah we will.
Every time?
Inshallah. You see, the will, if the will is there, just see, people used to make fun of KP government that they could not use their whole budget. They couldn't use it.
I
And
understand
to-
what you're saying, but the problem is I have this sense of deja vu. Only few months ago, I was sitting next to a representative of PMLN, the then ruling party, and they were saying the same thing. 15 years, we are going to be in power.
Right. Have you seen what happened in KP?
Why not worry about 5 years?
Have you seen what happened in KP?
What exactly? Explain it.
The same government came back with twice the mandate.
Okay, right.
Does it reflect something?
Something new? Because
Yes.
they never used to repeat governments.
Yes.
So
So that means there is
It's
something.
KP, and you're talking about Pakistan
No, that means
the entire country.
something that PTI has done is different than any other government in the past. What they have been doing. So
Right.
that means we are doing something different, which is being hitting the hearts and minds of the people down there who are voting.
that is a good point, sir. Let me go back to Zamir. Zamir, your take on youth bulge. What exactly can be done? Do we have the kind of reports that are needed in the past as well? Have you seen that kind of studies?
I'm really worried, Patafi. I don't want to, be cynical or anything, but my concerns revolve around the youth who are actually directionless
Okay.
at this point.
What do you
in
mean
time.
by that?
Because they don't know. They have been listening to all these promises from various governments in past, and they have seen that they have done nothing for them. But
What
my
do you
point
mean
is-
by
no,
directionless?
Directionless means that, like, if as you have mentioned that, like, if someone is studying this and then he sees that there is no job opportunity in Pakistan or some abroad as well, then he's directionless. Then the youth is actually, now my point would be that only creating job opportunities for the youth through economic means is not going to be enough.
Okay. What do you propose?
I think they should have as Dr. Saab has said, that they should have certain institutions which would train the youth.
So they are
in certain which we
Zamir, they are
used to
committing.
have polytechnic institutes.
Zamir, they are
We don't
committing
hear
to
of
that
any,
also.
of them
They are
anymore.
committing to that as well.
No, but my point is that how would the roadmap? We are still waiting for the roadmap towards this, and I'm really concerned because the more the delay in that roadmap, the youth would be going.
I mean, can't we give them at least 100
I'm,
days? Right now,
I'm
3
willing to
weeks.
give them the whole term. I'm not saying that I don't
So
see.
why
but
do you
at
complain that
least-
you
no,
haven't
no,
seen
my-
any roadmap? so far?
Roadmap. The thing is that in the first month or 20 days, if you say so, there should have been something which I could tell you in black and white that Patafi, this is what I have read about their plan about about the youth, as the president has mentioned, and they're seriously working on it. I haven't seen that.
Right. While
my-
you were
my
saying
point
this, Dr. Mohmand was actually shaking his head. He doesn't agree with you.
You see, the
No, he
thing
has
is
got
that
all the right
you
to
see,
disagree,
No,
but
the thing is that you see, I totally agree about the roadmap. The roadmap has to be given to be very fair. Should be given on the last day. That is the 100th day.
Okay.
Because
Not
it
today?
takes not today because
But he's
it takes-
complaining that maybe you didn't come up with the homework. That
No.
was maybe.
The thing is that you see, we have got. I think PTI was the only party, and Imran Khan is the only leader which has actually mentioned about one of the biggest one or two problems. One is the stunting. Because of the stunting, our children are already 50% handicapped to any other child in the world, right? So that is one important thing. Number two, the environment. You see, his drive towards this tree plantation has been very well taken by the World Economic Forum as well.
Right.
And they are telling every country that, look, be like Pakistan. What they have done, they are securing the future of their own kids. So PTI is coming up with the vision not only for today, tomorrow, but also for the generations to come.
Yeah,
Can
but
I intervene? I just need
And
to.
even this,
I agree, Dr. Saab. There is no question that, the things which you have been doing in KP, rewarded, and which we have seen. There is no second opinion on that. Despite the fact that there were questions raised about the accountability process, despite the fact that there were questions raised about your ministers, but apart from that, something must have been done by the KP government that you have been rewarded by a second time. But my point is Patafi, when I say that a roadmap should have been here in front of me, in most civilized people, and we think that PTI is a civilized party because they have been the people which we have seen along Imran Khan throughout are more educated, civilized. We thought they must have been working on a shadow government for last 2 years, 1.5 years or something like that, that these are the person. We heard that this Asad Umar would be the future finance minister 3 months before the elections. Tell me if I'm wrong. And now he's saying that, the point is that when
let me
you were
take you
not
back
part,
to, hang on. Let me take you back to 2013. When Ishaq Dar became the finance minister, the moment he came along with an entire year's budget and he introduced it, right? At that time, we
and
kept
how much
on,
time did he got for
no,
that?
we kept on praising it.
How much time did he got for
Weeks.
that? Weeks.
Right.
Hardly, not
But
a month even.
At that time, everybody was saying that he has done great. But today we see that he was lacking somewhere and people are complaining about it. It is now being pejoratively dubbed as Darnomics. So do you want that kind of a solution?
No, of course not. I want them, all the ills which we are facing today are basically were created by the previous two governments, the PMLN government and the Pakistan People's Party government.
Okay.
But my point is that we had very high hopes from the PTI.
Why don't you have them now?
No, I still have. I still have them. But
So
my point
why are
is,
you
my point
using
is,
past tense?
My point, Patafi, is here that today when you have specifically mentioned that the president has talked about the youth And all the parliamentarians sitting in front of him, they should have seen this. Oh, this is the youth policy. They have worked on it. They have this roadmap. That's good. Okay, now the president has talked about the accountability process, strengthening of the institutions. See, this is the paper which they have. No, no, my point is,
the president is not representing the government.
No, he's not representing the government. But my point is that the political party which is sitting, which is in the driving seat, and has the government in the federal and the KP and in Punjab, the largest province, they must have, like, see, the president is talking and he's representing federation and we have done it.
Dr.
My
Saab,
my point is that
you have made your point, right? Dr.
My simple answer to that is, do you think that they would have not done it?
Okay.
Right?
So what kept you?
If they have not announced, doesn't mean they haven't done it.
Okay.
Right? The thing is that before announcing something...
Are you saying the budget that was presented today was planned by your party months ago?
No. I'm not talking about the budget. I was answering
I'm talking about every aspect, because you announced, finance minister was announced
even this budget,
3 months ago.
Even this budget, yes, he was, I think we knew even 2 years ago that he would be, when PTI will come into power, he will be the finance minister, right? But in the last
2 years back, sir, you might have very different variables, right? At this moment, 3 months ago, you knew what exactly is going to happen.
You see, the thing is,
in economy,
let's put it like this. Let's put it like this. The day the PMLN went out of the office, they blamed all this, the dollars going, the rupee going down against dollars. They blame it to the caretaker government.
Okay.
The very next day, although it doesn't happen in. It's the whatever they did in the last 5 years is going to be reflected.
It was the policy of their last finance minister.
Exactly.
But 3 months ago,
it's not only Miftah,
but no, Miftah especially, because before that they were actually propping up the rupee. After that, it went down.
It was artificial.
It was.
You say it was artificial.
But 3 months ago,
even now,
3 months ago, you had caretaker.
That was the biggest blunder they did,
yes,
the previous government.
And this small little correction, whatever Asad Umar has done, he has tried to, control the damage. Even now, because actually the reality is much worse than what it is. Okay. I'm not a finance guy, but I think that he has tried to be very balanced by increasing certain things, by not increasing certain things.
Right.
He have really tried his best.
No, but however, I was asking, you said that they came up with the homework. And the problem was today,
if they
what they did
have,
today
if they would
was
not
quite
have
different
done his
from
homework,
what they have been saying, right?
If Asad Umar did not do his homework well, he wouldn't be able to control whatever has happened.
I sort of agree with that point.
My question to Dr. Saab would be, like, yesterday when he announced the jacking up the prices of gas in the country, and 2 years ago or 1 year ago on this floor of the assembly, he said that this is the worst thing the government has done worldwide. The gas prices are coming down, and he is on record, and every channel has actually shown that.
Agreed.
My point is that he knew each and everything. He was a member parliament, he was member finance committee, and he was member on various other committees as well. So why wasn't he prepared, or why didn't he knew that this is something which
that can happen?
That can happen. My point is that today you have actually brought out the genie, the inflation genie out of the bottle, and you won't be able to control it. And that, as people are saying that, I seriously doubt that, but the people are saying that this would reflect bad on the by-elections.
But you realize that whenever you give people some spending, a room to spend money, for example, tax cuts and all, inflation is supposed to go up, because people have money, they are going to spend more money, and it is going to have an impact on inflation. That is how things work. And this government might have actually, by reinstating the taxes, might have actually ensured that you don't have that kind of space where inflation goes up and up. This is a point. It was made by the economist, the lone economist you just mentioned, who was sitting in this program, and he said it, right? So I see their point. But we have to talk about something else, Dr. Saab, as well, and that it is quite important. Foreign policy. The president is saying that we need good relations with other countries, especially neighbors, which includes India as well. If you remember, you used to call the previous Prime Minister Modi ka yaar. So, do you think that anybody is going to let you build relations?
You see, there is a difference between being a yar and having a good relation with your neighbor at equal terms, for the interest of your country rather than for the interest of their country. They are two different things. If I am a yar, I'll do to please my yar whatever he wants me to do.
Regardless of what was
Right?
said,
There is two different things.
No, with due respect, regardless of the substance in the claim or the allegation, the point is in Pakistan, whichever government actually tries to build bridges with neighbors, especially India, they are criticized and they are said to be soft on security. How will you balance the two things? You build bridges and yet you don't compromise on sovereignty, on security and national honor.
I think the maiden speech by the Prime Minister as well was
Which one? Before taking oath or after taking
Before
oath?
taking oath, I would say that that was the speech.
Yes,
The speech.
right. He
The other was
actually-
great also. I like both.
yeah.
Right, both of them, right. He was very clear that look, we will have good relations with all our neighbors and also with US, but not as a diktat. We will
Not at the cost of national pride.
national pride or national interest.
Okay.
We will do it like a bilateral sort of terms.
Now
it's
you-
not like one-way sort of
Now,
traffic.
Dr. Saab, you're sitting next to a country which is very powerful. It is called India, and it is ruled by a man called Modi, who hasn't been very cooperative in the past. How do you change that?
Well, the thing is that you see, you have to. I think the India also realized that Pakistan is not something like they can really brush aside or put under the carpet. It's a very important factor in
They
in
might.
geopolitics.
They might, but even
they
today
don't.
they are
They
killing
can't.
Kashmiris.
You see, but this time, you see, at the end of the day, I think this was the first time when the Prime Minister, when the President and everybody has actually in their speeches have actually mentioned about what is happening in the Kashmir.
Right.
I think before that, nobody did that.
Is it true?
Well, of course.
I think they kept on mentioning.
yes,
I
they
mean,
have.
Previous
Not-
governments
you
also
see,
did.
they have,
mentioning
the
one
previous-
way or subtly
Dr.
is
Saab,
one thing.
Dr. Saab, why the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was criticized? Largely that he didn't utter a single word about Kulbhushan Yadav.
Kulbhushan was the actual figure. That's why
But
people
that
kept on
people,
saying.
people were, but that is why actually the PTI didn't come out with that slogan of Jo Modi ka yaar hai, wo yaar hai. I think it was People's Party.
It was
but
primarily People's Party that
primarily
started it.
People's Party, and then they actually adopted
Yeah.
it. But my point is that I think that what we have actually not seen in the previous government is that the empowering of the Foreign Office,
That is
thinking,
true.
I've said it many a times in your program, Patafi, that our Foreign Office is not just a ministry that is to be run, that is basically one organization which is to be considered as a think tank.
Okay.
And a think tank which actually prepares your policies for the future. How would you interact with the Committee of the World? This is how
You have a very independent foreign minister.
Yes, we have
But
today,
with due
and I'm
respect, what do you
confident,
do?
I'm confident,
What
I'm
do you do about the human resource?
No.
The same people are there.
No,
I think they are very capable.
I think
you
they are
didn't
very
agree.
capable people, but if you put them to work, then they would deliver.
Okay.
In previous time when there was no foreign minister, and I would still I don't know why Mr. Fatmi was there. Sartaj Aziz Saab was actually not allowed to work when Fatmi was there because Fatmi was calling the shots, and they had
No, actually,
ruined-
Fatmi
they had
Saab
actually
kept on
ruined-
complaining that Sartaj Aziz Saab won't let him work.
No.
It was the other way around.
Other way around, and I'm sure because Sartaj Aziz, I still respect him. He had the vision and he knew how the things should be taken.
any case, we
but
have-
Fatmi Saab was there just to probably to take revenge for what he has been going through when he was serving in the Foreign Office.
In any-
so
in any case, now we have a brilliant
foreign minister, and
even information minister and the ministers usually that have been picked are quite apt.
Yes, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. But I've got certain reservations as far as Asad Umar is concerned.
No, I don't. I think he's brilliant too.
I think he is brilliant. I don't say, but he can be. He could have been chairman planning commission with the minister.
You see, only the time will tell.
Okay, let him make the point about foreign
I think
office.
Umar Ayub would have been the right choice. I see him sitting behind Asad Umar because he has actually worked as a finance minister.
Tabdili bhai. Where is the change then?
Okay.
You have to have your own finance minister.
Okay. Who is Umar Ayub?
He just joined the party.
So what? So he has actually
Asad
joined the
Umar
party.
has been there since the day he joined politics.
I know his brother, not a distant brother, but real brother is also was also governor in PML and government. So I don't want to get into that.
I mean,
but
politically they don't actually see eye to eye.
Yes,
you know
of course.
We have seen that.
Yes, even today, Zubair Umar Sahab was in my program, and he
was
criticized his brother.
Brutally criticized his
brutally.
brother.
So my point is, as far as the relations with the neighbors is concerned,
I'm talking about particularly India. How do you sell it to the masses who are skeptical and who will convince themselves that the government has compromised with India?
You only have to prove to the masses that you are engaging with India on equal footing. That's it. Bringing them on the table for the composite dialogue. And if you
hang on. I don't know how much you realize the point you have made, how important it is. I don't know whether you realize this. But Imran Khan has this charisma and this appeal to the masses. If India wants to exploit that opportunity by building bridges with Pakistan, I think he can sell it to the people.
That's what I'm coming
This is what he has said himself as well.
Yeah.
He said, I am one of the person who knows Indians much more than any other political leader. So if anything, I will bridge this gap which is over there.
And he is very close with the rest of institutions of Pakistan as well. Starting from the army, the Prime Minister has gone
Well, you see, the thing is that it's
to the GHQ repeatedly.
If you are,
so this is the highest time.
If you are well-respected person, if you are a well-respected person because of your personal achievements, then everybody will start respecting you. They will give you that space. They will give you that honor. They will give you that time to prove yourself that you are a man of word. So far till today, he has proved himself always that he is a man of his words. And I do not have a single iota of doubt that he will bring this country back to where it should have been few decades back.
So how do you sell India?
You see,
and how do you convince India that it is in their interest to start building?
It is. They know it. They know it. It is the trust that needs to be developed. It is somebody has to take that bold step.
Dr. Sahab, how?
Well, that is diplomacy, and that is how you will start talking. Probably initially you would have side channels bringing them together. There are a lot of people who knows Imran Khan. There are a lot of sportsmen in all the cricketers.
Only Sidhu came to Pakistan.
Well, only Sidhu came to Pakistan, but there are other people who respect him very well.
He took back a message from entire state of Pakistan. But on television, on Indian television, he was butchered. But every day he would be presented as India's enemy.
But he did presented the Pakistan point of view over there. He did defend.
Fair enough.
That one drop is the start of it. This is how it starts. One small little step at a time.
Since you have mentioned Sidhu, it was only the Indian media who was actually butchering him.
Politicians also.
No, of course, politicians.
Not all of them.
Character assassination.
Of one
being
dwight,
called
I would say,
Pakistan's ally.
but the civil society, I would always say that their driving industry economy is their Bollywood So I think that they were very appreciative of Sidhu.
Half of
Sindhu.
their actors have also gone wonky when it comes to Pakistan.
No, but
when
they
you
have,
talk
they
about,
have, but I would
if you are
still
talking
take
about
it,
civil
I would
society
still take it
in
as
India,
an icebreaking, because, and I think that the things can be built on this in the future.
how?
Of course, but you,
Who is going to convince Indians?
probably it is more of the other way around. Who is going to convince the certain people in Pakistan that we can have good
Everybody,
relations?
you said, is on the same page.
Yes,
And they want to build peace.
So they will if
You cannot
and-
do it
and
unilaterally.
I'm convinced now that the times for Pakistan have changed.
Okay.
All the institutions are on the same page, and if they have got this will, they can actually get intermediaries to have say in India, and then you can sit and talk. My basic point is, if they can bring India back for the composite dialogue, and having Kashmir as the flashing point in those talks would be
It is a flashpoint. It is a flashpoint.
would be a great success to start on.
Right, on that constructive note, I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Zamir, Haider, thank you very much for your time. Dr. Humayun, Mohmand, always great having you in the show as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Of course, we could do justice to only 3 points of the President's address to the Parliament. But I think at this moment also, we have made quite a few points, especially when it comes to India. If India realizes this is high time when you can actually talk to somebody who is fully empowered and popular enough that people will buy his views. If India blows it, remember, today India might think that it is in a stronger position. Tomorrow it might not be. What happens then? Why do we have to have the seeds of discord all the time in the region? Why not work on them and do it away? This is the highest time possible. If it is spoiled, then who knows when this opportunity comes again. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.